Hi again, and welcome to the 5th episode of this series, where you'll be learning about events. I recall stating in the previous video, which is about functions, the functions will be used for future concepts, one of which are events. In essence, events are pieces of code that run when a certain condition has been met, kinda like an if statement, except events run whenever the condition is met instead of checking just once. However, condition is probably not the perfect way to describe it. Instead, think of it as code that when triggered will run the code beneath it, which is technically a function. For instance, let's say you wanted a door that opens whenever a player comes near enough to the door and steps on a part right in front of the door. We can use an event to trigger when the player steps on the part and then run the code inside the event, which would be opening the door. There is a limit to events though, and that is you can only use the events that Roblox has built into the engine. Now let's go through a practical example. Say your humor was stuck in 2017 and you thought that The Floor is Lava is a fun and relevant game for the average gamer to play. For this, you need to program a part that acts as lava. In regards to the logic, essentially if a player touches the part, it triggers an event that deals enough damage to the player for them to die. To do this, we have to learn two things: how to write the touched event and how to deal with damage to the player. The syntax for events can be ideally explained as instance.event, connect, open bracket function, open bracket parameters, close bracket, and then your code. Now this seems like a lot, so let's unpack it a little bit. Our instance is our object, what we want the trigger to be. In our case, it will be our lava part. Our event is the event we want the trigger to be attached to, essentially when the event will fire. In our case, we'll be using the touched event, which fires whenever something touches the object. The next part, connect, is just standard syntax for events, and essentially binds the event to the code we expect it to execute. Next is the open bracket function, which can be replaced with the function itself, but parameters will be defaulted, so usually I like to leave it as standardized as a function as I have done here. Inside the brackets are the parameters, which are also standardized. You can view all the parameters of each event online, but for the touched event, there is only a single parameter that we will use, which is the object that has touched the part. We can name this whatever we want, but I'm used to calling it hit. Now as you press enter, you will notice that our end has another bracket next to it this time, and this is because everything from the word function up to the bracket next to the word end is a function itself. Now let's see if it actually detects touch. We'll do this by writing a print statement within the event, which should execute every time the part touches something. And as you walk over the part now, you can see that our print statement executes. Also, the reason it fires multiple times is not only because we're stepping over it several times, but also each part of our player's body is a different part that triggers the event. Now that we have detected the touch, we have to write the code for the player damage. For this, first we have to detect if it's actually a player that has touched the part, as the part reacts to anything that touches it. For this, we have to check if our hit object has a property that is exclusive to a player's character, and that is the humanoid instance. Now when touch is detected, the hit part is actually registered as one of the many body parts that our character has, as you can see here. Thus we cannot tell if it is a character just from this, so instead we get the character of the function of the part that was touched and search for the humanoid in that. Getting the parent is fairly easy, however I will introduce you for new syntax for finding a child inside a parent, and that is the find the first child tool. This inbuilt function locates the first child under a parent with the name specified. In our case, this name is humanoid. To use it, we specify the parent, then separate find first child with a colon like so, and enter the name of the child inside the parentheses with quotation marks. If it finds a child, it will return a value of true, which is perfect for our if statement that will determine if the hit object is a player. And now that we know it's a player, we can get the character again with hit.parent, and now all that's left to do is to deal damage to the character. If you check the properties of humanoid, you'll see a health attribute. This is what we'll change in our code. For this, just write hit.parent.humanoid.health equals 0. Now we can test it, and as we touch the lava, we can commit die over and over again, therapeutically of course, just so this video doesn't get taken down. And that wraps up this video for events. Now there are several hundred events that you'll have to memorize, but I don't have the enthusiasm to explain them all, so I might leave a link in the description to some of the wiki pages where you can learn about all the other events. You don't need to memorize them all, but some of the fundamental ones that you will think you will use more than your brain cells should be enough. Anyway, I don't really feel like putting in the effort to leave my room today and pursue daily responsibilities, so I guess it's bedtime once again. Good night.